First off, as you can see, I fixed the attendance sheet. I know we've had about 3 or 4 of them, but they're finally good to go. Let's see. We're going to talk about a couple different things today. First, I'm going to present my life course Perspectives of Criminality slideshow. Today's class will be a little bit shorter than usual, especially since Dr. J is not here today. I do have my office hours today. They're after class from 9:30 to 10:30. I switched it up, so that way it's right after class, so it's fresh in your brain if you guys need to come see me. Let's see, and then we'll go over the midterm since it is next week. I know it's an open book exam, but we can go over it since it's not open yet. If that works for y'all. And then we'll go over APA format, and that'll be the rest of that, okay? Alright guys, so life course Perspectives of Criminality. We're on track, so this is the chapter that we're supposed to be on. Let's see. So, as an introduction to life course series, it was examined in the 1990s. It examines how criminal behavior develops and changes over a person's period of time, rather than one fixed point of time. It integrates biological, psychological, and social factors across different stages of life to influence whether someone engages in crime or if they end up stopping crime. It focuses on stability and change in offending over time. And our central question between this entire module is, why do some offenders persist while others desist? It's almost like that nature versus nurture question that we have sometimes. So kind of like we talked about, it shifts from one single point in time to developmental trajectories, which are also known as our longitudinal studies. We'll talk about a bunch of different trajectories, but our developmental trajectory is a distinct pattern of criminal behavior an individual exhibits over their entire life course. It helps classify individuals into different developmental types of offenders, and it connects with other theories such as social control, strain theory, and learning theory. Now, do we have any idea how those things may all correlate together? How we can put different theories together to integrate into the learning theory? I know it's kind of a tough one, huh? Alright. I actually wrote it down, it's a lot to take in. So, it does this by explaining how bonds to society weaken, which is our social control, or how pressures arise, which is our strain, leading individuals to learn and persist in criminal behavior, which is our learning theory, at different points in their lives, often influenced by turning points and cumulative disadvantages or advantages. I know that's a lot to take in. If you guys need to, I can write that down by the end of this. It's actually pretty important to this topic in this theory. But ultimately, the developmental approach of crime is seen as a dynamic process that evolves as people grow, mature, and evolve. Some of those examples could be like school, parenthood, marriages, things of that sort. Let's see. Alright, so turning points. We're getting into Sampson and Lobb, their theory, which was made in 1993. Their major life events can change a person's criminal trajectory, which is their criminal trajectory. Notice that's different than the developmental trajectory. Means like getting a job, having a stable relationship, or even serving prison time. Now notice how both of those are positive and negative features of major life events. They can be both, they don't have to be just positive or negative. But the positive turning points may promote desistance, while negative ones increase offending. Desistance meaning stopping crime. I don't know if I said that before, but that's what that is. Let's see. Now this chart is from our book. I'll move over a little bit. It's actually pretty interesting. It goes from Gottfriedsen's and Hershey's low self-control theory. It's pretty cool. So, early problem behaviors can build up disadvantages over time, limiting legitimate opportunities, which can also be legal, and increasing in criminal involvement. So, if we start from the middle here, it assumes that all individuals are born lacking control and are selfish. So this is kind of a neutral middle ground. We have the negative and the positive. Now, selfish does not always mean that it is negative. Selfish can mean babies that don't know difference from right or wrong. It can mean that they only know food, they know that they're tired, they know that they need to be changed. Those are not particularly selfish behaviors that can be negative, right? So whenever we talk about that, it is a neutral standpoint. They also don't have the mental capacity to think about how others feel yet. So that's whenever we get into this part, and then we get into ages and different time periods. So bad child rearing, I don't know if I can, yeah. Okay, so bad child rearing is characterized by lack of monitoring, recognition, punishment, and weak attachment. And then if we go over here to low self-control, we are met with impulsivity, insensitiveness, and disregard for long-term consequences. And then of course we have criminal offending and all forms of deviant behavior. Now if we go all the way back and we go down to the neutrality, and then we go back to good child rearing, we are met with consistent affection, monitoring, recognition, and discipline. Then we have high self-control. Now notice that both low self-control and high self-control are either identifiable before age 10 or established by age 10, which is actually pretty interesting because age 10 is the age that juveniles can actually start being charged up to juvenile life, which is 21. As we were talking about, the high self-control is characterized by greater success, a better social outcome, and fewer legal issues. And then this one's pretty self-explanatory. You have the ability to resist temptations to commit crime and other forms of deviance. Now, I did post a link for this chart, and it gives you all the information you need about this theory, the low self-control theory. It has an introduction all the way to the self-control theory itself. It has statistics. As you can see, it's very long, but it has everything you need to know about it in case you would like to read up on it. Okay, so I did a little experiment for you guys from my probation officers that I work with in juvenile justice. I do have their answers here that I'm going to be passing around as I go through this. It's relevant to our course. So the following data perceptions have change in reoffending. It talks about aging out, and it also talks about how strongly adolescent actions predict adult criminality. So y'all don't have to read these, they're pretty long. The ones that are circled are the ones that are the most important and relevant to this class. So, question 1. I asked them if they think more youth make life changes or if they reoffend and go into the adult system. Half of 50-50 said, one said 50-50, 2 said reoffending, and 1 said they can change. Now, I only did 5, so of course this is a very small statistical data, but it does give you an idea of what they believe. But what's interesting is that one of my probation officers said that we often focus on the youth in those reports rather than everyone as a whole, kind of like how we talked about in this class, how we look at statistics from the bad children. We think that maybe all of them are bad, but we really just need to look at both and we can get a bigger picture of what we're looking at. And then the second question is, can youth age out of criminal behaviors? Well, I had another officer tell me that the youth know their records are sealed. So whenever you turn 21, and let's say you had the life of a juvenile, which goes up to 21, all of your records are sealed. They're pretty much done for. They don't go on your adult record. So they're saying that a lot of kids probably don't really age out because they know that they can get in more trouble due to their records being sealed. And some of them just don't want to go to adult jail. So it could be either one. And then there was one more that I thought was pretty interesting. It says, how much do you think adolescent behaviors can predict later adult criminality? 2 of them said it depends, 2 said it's 50-50, and 1 said they definitely can. So most respondents see adolescent behavior as a situational predictor of criminality. And the response concluded a tendency towards reoffending rather than them having been rehabilitated. Let's see. Moffitt's developmental taxonomy. So it's saying that individuals persist in offending throughout life.